Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Day, Executive Director of the OLLU Wellness Center, and I am here to talk to you about self-care during finals and over the winter break. So this time of year can be really difficult, right? It brings a lot of unwelcome feelings sometimes, like stress and worry and sadness. And it's no wonder we have a bunch of demands on us as we try to navigate things like finals. We still have work, we have family relationships and friend relationships, and then we have the holidays on top of everything, right? And so even more this year, on top of that, is we are experiencing stress due to COVID. We worry about our health. We worry about the health of our friends and our family and others in our community. And so some of us might also be feeling stressed and anxious and sad because our holiday plans might look different during the pandemic than it has in other years. And that can be really difficult to accept and adjust to. So I'm here to give you a few tips, hopefully, that are practical and can help minimize stress that accompanies this time of year, and possibly will even allow you to enjoy the holidays more than you thought you would. So the first thing that I want to talk about is when you are experiencing stress at its peak, it's really hard to stop and regroup. Because of that, prevention is really key. So when I'm talking to anyone about practicing self-care tips and tricks, we don't just practice self-care in the moments when we're feeling completely overwhelmed. We practice self-care all of the time. This is why we have to practice it so it becomes natural, so that when those times of heightened stress come upon us, we're kind of like equipped and ready. We have those tools ready to just pick up and use, right? So that's especially important if this season has taken an emotional toll on you in the past, right? So we need to be mindful that seasonal changes do affect some people more than others. So shorter days mean less sunlight, and that affects our mood. And then sometimes the holidays are just in people's history have just been historically difficult for them. And so we need to be mindful of all of these things when we think about how we can each take care of ourselves individually in a way that fits our own needs. So one of the first things I always really tend to emphasize for folks is to make sure that you're taking care of the fundamental four, and that's eating, sleeping, engaging in some sort of movement, and also having desired socialization. So you don't want to abandon all of your healthy habits during this time of year. Don't let the holidays, finals, whatever, this break become a free-for-all. It's only going to cause stress and guilt, worry in the future. So make sure that you can indulge with regards to food, right? But you want balance. You want also to have healthy snacks. Don't go overboard on things like junk food. You need to get plenty of sleep. Sometimes we use this time to catch up on sleep, right? And that's okay, but we want to make sure that our body kind of stays in this ideal, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a pattern, right? We want to have some very healthy sleep hygiene patterns. And so while we can sometimes catch up on sleep, sleeping too much ends up being a struggle for us when we have to return back to school in the spring semester. So make sure that you're getting your 8 hours, but try to avoid oversleeping as well. Movement. So this is, physical exercise. It doesn't have to be super strenuous, but make sure that you're getting that in 20 to 30 minutes a day as much as possible. And I said desired socialization. I think sometimes during the holidays or the break between school, we're socializing. It's not necessarily with people we want to be socializing with. So make sure that you are including time to connect with folks that you actually want to connect with, even if that's virtual, given the limitations that we have. Make sure that you're reaching out, okay? This time of year can sometimes bring along feelings of loneliness and isolation, especially given the limitations of COVID, right? And quarantining that we might have to do. So reach out, text, call, video chat. If you're able to, sometimes volunteering or doing something to help others can also be really uplifting to our own spirits and allows us to make connections that we wouldn't have made otherwise. Okay, so on top of the fundamental four, what else do I think is really important with regards to self-care? You have traditional sorts of thinking around self-care, right? Those sorts of things, that sort of self-care relies on other things or other people, other resources, right? So oftentimes when I ask people, what do you think of when you think of self-care? They'll say, oh, I want to go shopping, or I'm going to go get a massage, or if they're of age, they'll say, I want to have some wine, right? That's a reliance on other things, right? We might not have the ability to do those things. We might not have the resources. We might not have the time. Who knows if those businesses will even be allowed to be open, to be honest, at this point in the year, right? And so we need to start practicing some self-care things that we can do individually and not necessarily rely on other people or things. And so one of the first things that we can do to help us mentally and emotionally is to be realistic. The holidays don't have to be perfect, nor do they have to be just like they were in the years past. Traditions are wonderful. Rituals are wonderful, but they can change just like we change. We change as individuals, our families change as we grow, right? So definitely hold on to what you can and want to, but also be open to creating new traditions that potentially better suit you and where you're at right now. The second thing you can do, or not second, but like another thing you can do is to plan ahead. So we talk about this a lot within the context of your academics in school. This applies to life in general, right? So if we're setting aside specific days and times for things and we have a schedule for us, that really reduces our stress. I mean, if you think about it, think about a big holiday meal, right? You're planning a menu, you need to make a shopping list. That way you're not scrambling last minute for things that you forgot, ingredients that you forgot, right? So doing this, planning accordingly as best as possible throughout the duration of the break can really be helpful and reduce some of that stress you experience. On top of that, I think another important thing to consider is sticking to a budget, right? Before you do your gift shopping or your food shopping, decide how much money you can afford to spend and make sure you stick to that. As nice as it is to receive gifts during this time of the year, it doesn't really buy happiness for a very long period of time, right? It's so short. Connection, other things are far more meaningful. So don't exert yourself, overspend, and put yourself in a bind trying to buy happiness with so many gifts, right? There all are alternatives. You can give homemade gifts. You can start a gift exchange, right? Instead of buying gifts, everyone buying a gift for everybody, you do an exchange instead. Try to get creative with those sorts of things. That way, you know, once the holidays are over, you're not thinking to yourself like, oh my goodness, I just spent so much money. How am I ever going to come back from that financially? We don't want to put yourself in that bind, right? In addition to that, this kind of like feeds off of that. Budgeting, planning is setting boundaries, right? So you can say yes to things that you're willing and able to do, but no is also a complete sentence. When you say yes to things that you really don't have time or energy, like the capacity to do, usually increases your stress because you're feeling overwhelmed and you also might be feeling resentful, right? People will understand if you can't participate in everything, if you can't do everything. It's not possible to say yes to everything. So make sure you're setting your boundaries. And I said no is a complete sentence, and it is. If you have the ability to say no just like that, say no. More power to you. If you're someone like me who struggled a little bit to learn how to set boundaries, there are alternative ways to say this and feel like you're not just blowing someone off, right? So you can say something like, I really wish I could. Maybe I'll be able to help out next time. Do you have anything else going on that doesn't require me to be there for X amount of time? Or do you have something that I'm able to invest time in, but not necessarily money? I'm trying to, you don't know them an explanation, but you can provide them if you like, right? So you can get creative with how to say no. I'd love to help you out. I'm just a little spent right now. All of these sorts of things are ways to kind of go around just giving a flat out no if that's something you're not super comfortable with. I also want to encourage everyone to make sure that amidst all of the craziness of the season, that you take a breath and make some time for yourself, right? Every day, if you can spend some time alone, even if it's just 15 minutes without any distractions, that might help you feel refreshed enough to handle all of the other responsibilities that you have. So some of the options of what you can do during this time are like taking a walk, listening to soothing music. You can read a book. Try your best to stay off of social media because we tend to be doing that already throughout our day, right? You can practice mindfulness exercises like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, various grounding techniques. You can meditate or pray. Whatever you can do to take time for yourself every day to allow, again, even that 15 minutes of relaxation and renewal will be really helpful. And then the last thing is that I'm thinking of is really to kind of acknowledge everything that's going on. Acknowledge your feelings. Again, as we started off talking earlier, as I started off talking earlier, a lot of emotions can come up. There's nothing wrong with the emotions that we're experiencing. And usually when we tend to like avoid them or put them off, they come on stronger, right? If we take the time to acknowledge our feelings, we tend to be able to kind of overcome them or bounce back from them much easier or more quickly than before. You cannot force yourself to be happy just because it's the holiday season, right? We can't channel that and produce it immediately. So don't be hard on yourself if you're not feeling overjoyed. That's okay. Some of the ways to acknowledge your feelings, I think the first thing that people think of is journaling, and that's a great way to do things. I also know that journaling can look different for people. Not everyone is the Dear Diary type of person. I certainly am not. That can work. And if that works for you, great. Continue doing that type of journaling. But journaling can look very different. You can track your mood and just jot down thoughts and feelings. You can identify goals in journaling. You can write about the things or people that you're grateful for. You can doodle or draw. You can kind of cut up kind of like a collage, right? Cut up pictures. You can write song lyrics. There are so many different that capture your mood. There are so many different ways that you can journal. And you can also do this now, luckily, with technology, right? You don't even need a paper and a pen journal to do it. I was going to pull one up right now to do that anymore. That's helpful for some, and that's great. But if you prefer more of an electronic virtual means, two journals that are online and also available in app form are called Day One and Journey. So check those out if you haven't checked out those electronic form of journals. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but be compassionate. Practice self-compassion. Be compassionate with yourself. Again, a lot of emotions come up. We're not going to be able to handle everything. We're not going to be able to do everything. We're going to have different reactions. We're going to feel stressed. And that's okay. The more we beat ourselves up about it, the worse things get. How can we be compassionate to ourselves and to others, right? Oftentimes sometimes we can hold grudges, and maybe we can work through some of those things. But I find more often that we tend to be nicer to other people. We tend to cut people more slack for things. We're less critical of other people than we are of ourselves. And so if we even took the time to reflect on how we talk to ourselves and think, would I tell my friend or my family member something like that? Would I talk to them in this sort of way? A lot of times the answer is no, and we find that we're really, really harsh on ourselves. So if that's something that you do, try to be aware of that and modify it just a little bit to be a little bit more self-compassionate. And then the last thing I wanted to remind you all of is that counseling services is going to remain available to you throughout the winter break. There are about 10 days, the 23rd through the 1st, the 23rd of December through the 1st of January, that the university is closed and counseling service staff is not available, but we are available for the rest of the break. And so if you're wanting to schedule an appointment, you can still reach out by emailing us at counseling@ollusa.edu. Additionally, if you guys have not heard, we have 24/7 access to counseling available to you through Timely MD. So they offer two sorts of counseling there. They offer an option that's called Talk Now, and that's when you're hoping to talk to a clinician right there in the moment. You need immediate emotional support. They are available to you. They're also available for scheduled counseling. So make sure you check them out if that's an option you'd like to pursue. You can download the Timely MD app. Make sure you use your .edu login so that the services are free to you, or you can visit www.ollu.health. And again, make sure you're using your school email address so that way all of the services are free to you. I hope everyone has an amazing break. I'm wishing you all the best of luck with finals. I hope everyone does well and that during this break you find peace and relaxation and renewal and connection to others. If you need us, please do not hesitate to reach out. Or if you just have any questions or concerns. You all take good care of yourself, okay?